Every Christmas, while everyone was celebrating, I was just a forgotten name in my mother's eyes. For most people, the sound of sleigh bells and the scent of pine needles bring back memories of warmth, laughter, and the soft glow of a fireplace. For me, those sounds only bring back the echo of a locked basement door and the hollow ache of an empty stomach. My name is John Anderson, and for the first 18 years of my life, I wasn't a son. I was an inconvenience. A shadow that lived in the corners of a house that never felt like a home. My mother, Sophia Carter, was a woman who worshipped appearances. To the world, she was a pillar of the community, a woman of grace and class. But behind the closed doors of our suburban home, she was cold, calculating, and deeply resentful of my existence. I was the mistake from a previous life she wanted to forget. When she married William Harris, a wealthy real estate developer, I became the stain on her perfect new canvas. William had a daughter from his first marriage, Emma Whitmore. Emma was everything I wasn't allowed to be. She was the princess, the star, the golden child. While Emma opened mountains of gifts under a 12-foot tree, I was often told to stay in my room because the house was too crowded for extra bodies. While they feasted on turkey and honey-glazed ham, I was handed a cold sandwich and told to be grateful for the roof over my head. I remember one Christmas vividly. I was 12 years old. I had saved up every penny I found on the sidewalk or earned from doing extra chores for the neighbors to buy Sophia a small silver locket. I thought, in my naive heart, that if I gave her something beautiful, she might finally see me. When I handed it to her, she didn't even open the box. She looked at it with a sneer and said, "John, where would I ever wear something so cheap? Give it to the maid." Then, she turned to Emma and handed her the keys to a brand new car, even though Emma was only 14 and couldn't even drive yet. That was the night the light went out in my eyes. I realized then that no amount of love, no amount of service, and no amount of begging would ever make me belong in Sophia Carter's world. I was a ghost in my own life. The day I turned 18, I didn't wait for a goodbye. I didn't pack a suitcase because I owned nothing worth taking. I walked out of that house with nothing but the clothes on my back and a burning desire to disappear. I joined the military. I wanted to go somewhere where my name didn't matter, where my past was irrelevant, and where my value was measured by my strength and my resolve, not by whose blood ran through my veins. The training was brutal. It broke me down until there was nothing left of the scared boy from the basement. I thrived in the dirt, the heat, and the chaos. For the first time in my life, I had brothers. I had a purpose. I rose through the ranks with a ferocity that surprised even my superiors. I became a commander, a man tasked with leading others through the darkest valleys of human experience. I saw things that would make a normal person's soul shatter, but it only made me harder. It made me a man who knew the value of loyalty and the price of betrayal. 20 years passed. 20 years of silence from the woman who gave me life. Not a letter, not a phone call, not a single thought. To Sophia, I was dead. And in a way, she was right. The boy she knew was gone. In his place stood a man who had built an empire of his own, far away from the petty cruelties of suburban high society. But life has a strange way of coming full circle. I had acquired wealth through smart investments and my military career, and I decided it was time to return. Not to seek their love, I had long since outgrown that need, but to reclaim the space I was always denied. I bought a mansion on the outskirts of our old town, a sprawling estate that dwarfed the house Sophia had been so proud of. I moved in quietly, a shadow returning to the land of the living. But then, a knock came at my door. Not a gentle knock, but a frantic, entitled pounding. They didn't know who lived there. They only knew they wanted in. The winter air was biting that afternoon. I was standing in my study, looking out at the snow-covered grounds of my estate, when the peace was shattered. My security detail alerted me that a group of people was at the main gate, demanding entry. They claimed there had been a mistake with a property deed and that this land actually belonged to the Harris Carter Trust. I felt a cold smile spread across my face. I knew that name. I walked down the grand staircase, my boots echoing on the marble floor, a sound of authority they would soon learn to fear. I told my guards to let them through to the front courtyard. I wanted to see them. I wanted to see the faces that had haunted my nightmares for 2 decades. As the heavy iron gates groaned open, a sleek black SUV pulled in. Out stepped William Harris, looking older and much more desperate than I remembered. Then came Emma Whitmore, draped in expensive furs, looking around the estate with eyes full of greed. And finally, Sophia. She looked exactly the same, elegant, poised, and utterly devoid of warmth. They didn't recognize me. Why would they? I was no longer the scrawny, hollow-eyed boy who shivered in the basement. I was a man of stature, my face scarred by service, my shoulders broad, wearing the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing left to prove. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice low and steady. William stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "There's been a legal misunderstanding. This estate was supposed to be sold to our firm months ago. We have the paperwork to prove that the current owner, some mystery investor, has defaulted on the land rights. We're here to take possession." It was a lie, of course. I knew exactly what they were doing. William's business had been failing for years. I had been tracking their decline. They were trying a desperate, land grab tactic, hoping to bully a newcomer out of a prime piece of real estate to save their own sinking ship. "I am the owner," I said simply. "And I assure you, there is no default." Sophia stepped forward then, her eyes narrowing. She looked at me with that familiar look of disgust, the one she used to give me when I spilled milk or spoke too loudly. "Listen, young man. We don't have time for games. This property is ours by right. If you don't step aside and let us inspect our new home, we will have the authorities remove you. You're probably just some hired help playing master of the house." Emma chimed in, her voice shrill. "Exactly. Look at him. He looks like he belongs in a barracks, not a mansion like this. Mother, call the police. Tell them we have a squatter." I watched them. I watched the way they spoke to me, the way they looked at my home with such entitlement. The betrayal I felt wasn't new. It was a dull, familiar ache, but seeing it directed at the man I had become was different. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was a cold, crystalline clarity. "You haven't changed," I whispered, almost to myself. "What did you say?" Sophia snapped. "I said you haven't changed, Sophia. Still looking down on people from your imaginary throne. Still trying to take what doesn't belong to you because you're too hollow to build anything of your own." Her face went pale. The use of her first name was a slap. "How dare you speak to me that way? Do you have any idea who I am?" "I know exactly who you are," I said, stepping closer until I was looming over her. "You're a woman who spent 18 years trying to erase her own son. You're a woman who let a child go hungry on Christmas because he wasn't elegant enough for your dinner table." The silence that followed was deafening. William and Emma looked between us, confused. Sophia's eyes widened. She began to shake, her hand flying to her throat. She looked at my eyes, searching for the boy she had discarded. "John," she breathed, the name sounding like a curse on her lips. "The commander lives here now, Sophia," I said, my voice like steel. "And you? You're trespassing." "John, honey, we didn't know." William suddenly changed his tune, his voice oily and desperate. "We thought you were, well, we didn't know you had become so successful. This is wonderful. A family reunion. We were just saying how much we miss you." The lies were so thick I could almost taste them. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were only sorry that the person they trampled had grown tall enough to crush them back. Emma, realizing the squatter was actually a wealthy man, tried to force a smile. "John! Brother! It's been so long. Look at this place. You must let us in, it's freezing out here." "I am not your brother, Emma," I said. "And I am not your son, Sophia. I am the man you created by leaving me in the dark. And now, the dark has come to collect. I turned to my head of security, Robert Clark, a man who had served under me in the desert. They are forcing entry onto private property. They have no legal standing. Remove them. John, wait! Sophia screamed as Robert and 2 other guards stepped forward. You can't do this! We're your family! We're in trouble, John, the business, the debts, we need this house. The truth finally came out. They weren't there for a homecoming. They were there because they were bankrupt. They had lost everything, and they thought they could bully their way into one last luxury. As the guards began to physically escort them back toward their SUV, Sophia turned back, her face twisted in rage and desperation. You're a monster! After everything I gave you! I gave you life! You gave me life! I shouted back, the emotion finally breaking through my calm exterior. But you never gave me a reason to love it! You made me nothing! Well, look at me now. I am everything you ever wanted to be, and you are exactly what you feared, a beggar at my gate. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal battles, but they were battles I had already won before they even began. I had spent years preparing for this, even if I didn't realize it. I had documented every penny of their debt, bought up their outstanding loans through shell companies, and waited for the right moment to pull the rug. They tried to sue for the estate, but my lawyers, the best money could buy, shredded their claims in minutes. Then came the final blow. Because I owned their debt, I moved to foreclose on their own home, the house where I had been forced to live in the basement. The day of the eviction was gray and cold. I drove my car to the end of the driveway and sat there, watching. I didn't want to gloat. I wanted to witness the end of an era. I saw Sophia walking out of the house she had prized above all else, carrying a single suitcase. William followed, looking broken and small. Emma was crying, her designer clothes looking out of place as she loaded boxes into a cheap rental truck. They had nowhere to go. No friends left to call, because they had treated everyone the way they had treated me. Sophia saw my car. She stopped and looked at me through the windshield. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the mother I had once wished for, a woman who might say, "I'm sorry." But the moment passed. Her face hardened into a mask of bitterness, and she turned away. She would never change. Some hearts are just too frozen for the sun to reach. I drove away from that house and never looked back. I sold the property to a local charity that builds homes for displaced veterans. I wanted that land to finally hold some light, to finally be a place where people were welcomed, not cast out. Now, it's Christmas again. I'm sitting in my mansion, but the rooms aren't empty. I've invited the men who served with me, the ones who have no families to go to. The halls are filled with the smell of pine and roasting turkey. There's laughter, real laughter, echoing off the walls. I look at the small silver locket I kept all these years. The one Sophia told me to give to the maid. I don't feel anger when I look at it anymore. I feel peace. I learned a hard lesson in those 20 years. Family isn't about the blood that flows in your veins. It's about the people who stand by you when the world goes dark. It's about the people who see you when you feel invisible. Sophia thought she made me nothing, but in the end, her cruelty gave me the strength to become a man who could build a world of his own. She lost a mansion, a reputation, and a life of luxury. But her greatest loss wasn't the money. Her greatest loss was the son who would have moved mountains to make her proud, if only she had given him a seat at the table. As the snow falls softly outside my window, I realize that revenge isn't about causing pain. It's about outgrowing the people who tried to keep you small. It's about finding the warmth you were denied and sharing it with the world. I am John Anderson. I was once nothing to my mother. Today, I am a commander, a friend, and a man who finally knows what it means to be home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Your support means everything and motivates us to bring you more powerful stories. Drop a comment below and tell us which part of the story you like the most. And stay tuned, the next story is coming soon, even more intense and emotional.